The old democracy was tempered by a generous dose of liberalism and of enthusiasm for law. By serving these principles, the individual bound himself to maintain a severe discipline over himself. Under the shelter of liberal principles and the rule of law, minorities could live and act. Democracy and law, life in common under the law, were synonymous. Today, however, we are witnessing the triumphs of a hyperdemocracy in which the mass acts directly, outside the law, imposing its aspirations and its desires by means of material pressure. It is a false interpretation of the new situation to say that the mass has grown tired of politics and handed over the exercise of it to specialized persons. Quite the contrary. That was what happened previously. That was democracy. The mass took it for granted that after all, in spite of their defects and weaknesses, the minorities understood a little more of public problems than it did itself. Now, on the other hand, the mass believes that it has the right to impose and to give force of law to notions born in the cafe. I doubt whether there have been other periods of history in which the multitude has come to govern more directly than in our own. That is why I speak of hyperdemocracy. The same thing is happening in other orders, particularly in the intellectual. I may be mistaken, but the present-day writer, when he takes his pen in hand to treat a subject which he has studied deeply, has to bear in mind that the average reader, who has never concerned himself with this subject, if he reads, does so with the view not of learning something from the writer, but rather of pronouncing judgment on him when he is not in agreement with the commonplace that the said reader carries in his head. If the individuals who make up the mass believe themselves specially qualified, it would be a case merely of personal error, not a sociological subversion. The characteristic, however, of the hour is that the commonplace mind, knowing itself to be commonplace, has the assurance to proclaim the right of the commonplace and to impose them wherever it will. As they say in the United States, to be different is to be indecent. The mass crushes beneath it everything that is different, everything that is excellent, individual, qualified, and select. Anybody who is not like everybody, who does not think like everybody, runs the risk of being eliminated. And it is clear, of course, that this everybody is not everybody. Everybody was normally the complex unity of the mass and the divergent, specialized minorities. Nowadays, everybody is the mass alone. Here we have the formidable fact of our times, described without any concealment of the brutality of its features.